Hi, and welcome to another Memory Keeping Monday. I'm designer Jen Gallagher, and this month we are focusing on either in review or tools. And I chose to work with tools today. I'm going to show you several different tools that I used to build this layout. First, I started with an 8.5 by 11 inch green piece of cardstock, and then I wanted to do a background completely on craft cardstock, but I wanted to make it my own background. So I am going to use a stamping technique to create my own background paper. Now I am going to be using this Studio Calico stamp, and I'm going to be using this speech bubble. So choosing some ink that is a little bit darker than my craft cardstock, I start by stamping a random pattern on the cardstock. Now the key to using this particular stamp is that I'm going to stamp in a row, and I'll put some large spaces between some of my stamping, and I'll put some small spaces in between some of my stamping, and then I'll finish out the row. Now for the second row, I'll keep it kind of random by just stamping in a different place on this particular row, and I'll continue until the entire page is filled. Now to keep this class moving, I went ahead and did this step, so let me show you what it looks like completed. After I stamped the entire page, I trimmed it slightly so that it would fit on the green cardstock. So now you can see how it looks. I've created my own background paper by using a stamp tool to create this. I'm going to adhere this down on my page with just a regular dot runner adhesive. You can use whatever adhesive you like. Now the next part of my page is I'm going to use a common tool that we all have to create some diagonal lines. And to do that, you need a paper trimmer and a piece of paper. This is a 6x6 piece of paper. You can use any size of paper you want. Now you can get precise with the measuring on this, but I will put one corner of the pattern paper right where I'm going to cut, and then I'll move my paper so that I can create a line or a diagonal line as thick or as thin as I want. And you can see by moving it, it will cut here. This would be a thick one, this will be a thin one. That's another tool that you can use. That's an easy way to create diagonal lines. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere that to our layout. And I'm going to start with some pattern paper from Echo Park Paper. And then I'm going to layer on some pattern paper that's from the Birthday Girl collection by Echo Park Paper. And then I'll finish up with some more Sweet Day pattern paper. The Sweet Day pattern papers are both 6x6, and the blue is 12x12. Now what I'm going to do is, using straight scissors, I'm just going to trim off the extra. And I already know that I am going to put a photo on this side, so it doesn't have to be straight. So that's a quick and easy way to use your tools to create diagonal lines. Now a different way to create a photo frame is to use a bag. These are some glassine bags that we have in the store, and this is where I'm going to place my photo. So I will just align this with the corners, and then I've pre-printed a black and white photo of my son. It's about 2 inches wide, and I am going to put that on the bag. You could also use an envelope, or you can just use a simple pattern paper frame. Now these speech bubbles are fun, and I thought it would be fun to include some additional stamping inside those bubbles. So measuring the stamp sentiments that I already had on hand, I simply selected a few that would fit inside these circles. And we're going to start with the stamp that says Hello Handsome, and it is from Hero Arts. I'm using the exact same stamp color because I want the stamps almost to disappear into the page. I don't want them to stand out too much. So you can see how I've stamped in there. The next stamp says I Love You, and it is from Hero Arts as well. And for this one, I'm going to stamp it 3 times by just layering it once on top of the other. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. You can continue adding stamping along the page wherever you want. You can add more I love yous, just wherever you feel like it would work. You can put them in the middle, on the bottom. Just make it your own. Okay, after you've stamped as many sentiments as you want, I wanted to add some journaling. And I'm going to do that by I've printed out the journaling here, and it's going to fit inside one of these speech bubbles here. And I've trimmed it down, and then I used a corner rounding tool. In this case, it's a crocodile tool. And then you simply round the corners. So make sure that you have one of these type tools on hand. There's lots of different corner rounding tools that you can use, and they come in a variety of how big you want the curve. Now I've pre-cut that, and I'm going to place that right inside that journaling bubble right there. I've also selected a color on my printer that is similar to the ink that I've been using, so you can see how it just kind of sinks in there. Now I don't actually want these stripes covering that journaling, so I'm going to go ahead and move them down a little bit. You can adjust if you move quickly with your adhesive. So I just want that journaling to kind of be the focus of that area right there. And then you can come back with the straight scissors again and trim off any excess. We'll straighten out the journaling, straighten out the bag. Now at the bottom of the layout, I am going to add a piece of pattern paper from Webster's Pages. It says On My Way. And I have wrapped some twine around it and tied it into a bow. And we'll just add that to the bottom here. And then I have a book plate here. This book plate is from We Are Memory Keepers, and this is some pattern paper from Doodlebug Designs. You want to cut it so that it fits inside of the book plate. And then I will place it down where I want it to be, and then I'll slide that paper in before I actually even adhere the paper. Now to adhere the book plate to the paper, you're going to need a paper piercer or a sharp pin. And you're also going to need the brads that come with the book plates. And in this case, they do come with matching brads. So I'm going to pull out the teal ones. And there's a couple of different colors in this particular collection, so be sure to check out the supply list so you can find them. So we're just using basic tools to build the elements of this page. All right, now we're going to do something fun, and we're going to use another tool that you're likely to have around, and we're going to focus on using these cloud punches. Now to do that, you need some cardstock, and I'm going to use the back of this craft cardstock I've been using. And these cloud punches come in a couple of different sizes. Be sure to get all the sizes that you like. There's a large, medium, and a small, and there's lots of other punches in the store. Now you can stamp on these. There's even a stamp set from Studio Calico that matches these particular tools. I also stamped them in white, or rather punched them in white, and I did 2 large and 1 medium. Now, for something fun, I wanted to stick these clouds inside of this bag. So I'm going to stick the first one really tall, really high, and I'm just using some long sticks, and I'm going to use a glue dot to adhere that on top of the stick, and then I just take my glue dot, if it needs another one, and place it on the back to hold it in place. And you'll just repeat that for the other 2 punched clouds. So look for new ways you can use your punches. With the negative trend of negative shapes, you could punch out shapes rather than use a die cutting machine. You could punch and stamp. You can punch out of a photo. Lots and lots of different options. So there's our little clouds. Now we're going to add some clear buttons to these diagonal stripes. Now you could sew them on if you're a seamstress and you like to sew, or I just use clear glue dots to hold them down. Sometimes I'll add twine. Today I'm just putting them down as is. Just adhere them down wherever you like. And then we're going to use some washi tape at the very top. And there's a lot of different ways to use washi tape. I'm using two different kinds. I'm using a gray diagonal and a gray solid. Washi tape is tape, so it can be used to hold down photos or anything that you want to use it for. I am going to attach it to the top of my layout. And I'm going to lift the very top and tuck it in like that. And I'm going to do a second diagonal piece. And with tape, you can cut the ends so they're straight, or you can tear them at a diagonal. So lots of different options for style. So I would suggest collecting a few basics like gray or black, and then move to some fun colors that you like to use. I'm going to layer the solid silver over the other black. And it just kind of matches the bag that I've used there. So there's the tape, and there's the clouds. Let's go ahead and finish the layout by adding some letter stickers inside this book plate. So you can see, I'm going to use some Doodlebug ones. And I like to mix and match capital letters with smaller letters, lowercase letters. So try to center the middle letter of the title and then overlap if you need to. On this particular day, my son was terribly bored and couldn't think of anything fun to do. So this is why that layout's going to be called Bored. And the journaling says, I know you're totally bored, little man, but sometimes there just isn't a friend around when you want to play. I'm sure you've all gone through that as parents. So there's the title. Thank you for joining me for Memory Keeping Monday today. Be sure to check the website for all the supplies used to create this layout, as well as additional Memory Keeping Monday videos.